The recordings will be available via a YouTube channel. We'll also be distributing them via the email addresses that we've got for award participants. So thank you for your time today. And thank you to those of you who are adding your name and your facility into the chat box. That's really useful. So from today's point of view, we do have an hour and a half available to us. Yesterday's session took about 55 minutes with a few questions afterwards. So we will see if we can keep to that sort of time this time. Can I ask you to mute your microphones, but keep your cameras on? It's nice to see faces. It helps us to understand if we're getting the level of presentation correct. As I've said, if you could put questions into the chat box, that would be really useful. It just means we can answer them as we go through. And as I've said, we are recording. So thank you. Mike, if you could just go to the next slide for me, please. Just so that you all know, Moving Communities is a sector-leading collaboration of these partners. We have some really strong organisations that have pulled together an awful lot of intelligence to make Moving Communities work. We start with Right Directions with Caroline at Quest, bringing some of the Quest Prime, but also some really interesting support days and very good quality assessors that are going to be helping organisations to improve. We are blessed to have Sheffield Hallam University working with us. They've been absolutely outstanding in informing us around the social value calculations, which we'll hear about later. Max Consultancy, who aren't represented today, but Lisa's been doing a great deal of work around the financial performance, the benchmarking of that financial performance, but more importantly, how that information can help us all make a difference. We have Utku from 4Global and Data Hub. Data Hub is the power behind what we do. It's collecting all of the data, it's collating that data and using that data in a way that really generates some fantastic intelligence. And then you've got Mike and myself from LeisureNet, and we're predominantly doing the customer experience survey, the experience management element of this and managing the overall project. So I'm now going to hand over to Andy Pearson from Sport England. Andy.
Thanks, David. So I just wanted to say a few words about why we're doing this, why we're here today. The first reason that we're doing this Moving Communities support package is that we want to help you through your recovery using the data and insight that we've gained through the National Leisure Recovery Fund. We hope that the two support packages, some of you will have got both support packages, some will only have the Moving Communities, some will only have Quest, but we hope that those support packages help you in this difficult period by comparing your recovery against the national picture, which you'll find out a little bit more about today, give you some access to key data sets through the dashboard, the regular infographics to help you plan and manage your recovery, and also the customer experience survey to help you understand how your users are feeling about coming back to centres and the experience that they have. I suppose the second reason that we're doing this is that we've never had such an opportunity to build the national picture and to highlight the impact of leisure facilities. We know that leisure facilities are important in the whole system for physical activity, but this data really provides some sound evidence of their importance, who uses them, who benefits from them, and the social value gained from leisure facilities. And as Moving Communities matures and we start building on that data, we'll be able to share best practice through insight and through case studies and webinars to support recovery and support long-term growth of the sector. Just move on to the next slide, please. As I said, the NLRF has provided us with a great start to look at this data, but we've got the opportunity to add to this through the Community Leisure Recovery Fund, and we'll have about 45 facilities that feed in data through this route. And just to give you sort of an idea of the scale of that, we think that's worth around an annual number of visits of around 6.5 million people who visit community leisure centres who will benefit from this fund. That's not all of them, that's just the ones that we're giving Moving Communities awards to. We had a diverse range of organisations apply to us, but typically those types of facilities that you see there, CICs, trusts, community-run facilities, charities, are the ones that we're sort of predominantly working with through the Community Leisure Recovery Fund. So I'll pass you back over to, I think I'm passing back over to you, David, now.
I'll pick up from there in the
okay. Thanks. Okay.
No problem. So I mean, with all this background, we just want to talk a little bit about how this whole system, the Moving Communities platform, will help the CLRF program, and what type of information you will share and access via the platform. So this initial screen is about the data sources and the dashboards from the platform. So if we read the diagram bottom up, we have basically facility data, participation data, finance data, customer experience data, and service delivery data is the 5 different data sets feeding into the platform. The plan is to automate as much as we can from these data sets, from all the different sources of information you currently use within your data capture tools, leisure management systems, or other systems that you use to capture the data. The first 4 are like all standard parts of the system, and the service delivery data from Quest assessments, which Caroline will speak about later, is the optional piece within that picture. And then out of these 5 data sets feed into the Moving Communities database, where the data is standardized and aggregated, and from there we are feeding it into 6 KPI dashboards, which is the red boxes on the screen. So participants, visits, social value, finance, customer experience, and service delivery are our 6 KPI dashboards where you can gain insights from the data collected in the platform. This data is then accessed by 3 different user groups. So we have the national user group, which is primarily Sport England and national partners, who can see the national view from the platform. Then we have local authorities accessing their local view. So any facilities operated in their area, they can see the full picture of what's happening in their within their borders. And delivery partners are basically accessing their view from the facilities that they operate. So if we move to the next slide, where are we in the program so far? So especially on the National Leisure Recovery Fund, to date, we have launched the platform back in March, and we have started the data collection the following month, and then that data started to feed into the dashboards and analysis sections. To date, we have collected data from over 900 sites for the finance information. Then we have over approximately 1,100 sites on the participation data, and the customer experience survey has reached out 50,000 plus responses from 1,100 sites. And on the Quest assessments, we have completed about 35 Quest assessments to date, and we continue adding up to those numbers. The platform is accessed by a range of users. So we have over 1,700 people accessing this platform to get insights out of it. And we are reaching roughly about 120 users a day to gain insights from the platform. Mike, if we can go to the next slide, please. So what we are going to do next is we are going to give you a quick overview from the different dashboards within the platform. So you can actually see what type of information can be gathered via the KPI dashboards. And the platform is very customizable, which you will see later on when we dive into the platform, online platform. So you can set your preferences to get a national view, to get your local view, to benchmark the two, and to look at different time periods as well. So within that example, we are going through, we have selected the national filter. So we are seeing all of the data collected in the platform, and we are comparing 2 financial years. So April 2019 to March 2020 compared with the following financial year. And this will also give us a view of how COVID has impacted the sector, because that way we will be able to distribute before and after pictures from the start point of the lockdowns. So the setup of the dashboards are quite standard. You have 4 main KPIs on top of each dashboard, and below that you have a set of graphs that give you the further information. So on the participants dashboard, as you can see on the first KPI, where we have total participants, we have reached about 20 million individual people in the total participant numbers in the pre-COVID period, and then in the post-COVID era, that number has gone down to 3.6 million. So that's roughly about 20% of the total participation could only be reached in the post-COVID era within the sector. And then the same is applied to female, 65 plus and low sec participants. And the second part of the page is showing the distribution of that participants before and after COVID from an age group's perspective and also from deprivation. So the picture we have there is less older adults using the facilities in the post-COVID period as a percentage of the total, and also likewise the deprived areas participation have gone down in the 1 year period throughout the COVID period. Before I jump to the next one, I've seen a question from Paul, so where relevant, I'll try to pick those up as well. So in terms of disabled participants participation, so in the standardized data capture tools, leisure management systems, disability and ethnicity are two pieces of information which is not very standardized or collected by many delivery partners. So that's why instead of getting this data from the leisure management systems, we are collecting it via the user surveys we conducted. So that data feeds into the participants dashboard as well. So we are providing you with a view of the disability and also ethnicity breakdown within the facilities as well using that user survey data. So if we go to the next slide, please. Right, the second dashboard is about throughput. So it complements the participants dashboard. So throughput is all about visits. So here we are comparing the 12-month picture before and after again, and seeing how many visits the sites have attracted in the country. And also the second part of the page is giving you a percentage breakdown in 7 main activity areas within the facilities. So what we see is a much more balanced picture in the pre-COVID period, but in the post-COVID era, because of restrictions and also closed facilities, there was only the majority of the participation have come from fitness and gym activities, which was quite based on an individual use of the facility. So this is the view from the participation side of things. Now we are going to switch to our third dashboard, which is in the next slide about finance. So if we can go to the next one, please. Yeah. So on the finance side, we are collecting income and expenditure data from the delivery partners. And the main KPIs we are looking here is the income per visit, operating cost per visit, and which is also driving the third KPI, which is subsidy per visit. So here what we are seeing is in the pre-COVID period, we have a minus 20 pence, which is basically a surplus. That's a small surplus generated per visit in the sector. But in the post-COVID period, we have 5.76 pounds for each visit. So this is basically the subsidy requirement for the visits of each individual into the facility. And from a cost recovery perspective, what we are seeing in the final KPI is how much of our operating costs have been covered by the operating income coming into the sector. And there we have 113%, which is showing basically a 14% profit, operating profit, whereas in the post-COVID period, only 39.66% of our operating costs could be covered by the operating income generated in the facilities. So that's quite important from a financial view, and you can also see the further breakdown into different income and expenditure items in there. So some highlights there is we have quite a high other income in the post-COVID period as a percentage. So that's primarily the furlough scheme, covering some of the losses from the operations. So that's covered in the percentage breakdowns. And in the expenditure side of things, what we are seeing is pretty much a similar distribution of the cost, apart from some changes like the cost of sales being close to zero in the post-COVID period. So I mean, once you have access to the platform, you will get a full details of each of these KPIs and you will be able to analyze them more in detail, but that's hopefully giving you a nice picture of participation and finance KPIs across the sector in the post and pre-COVID period. So before we move into the fourth dashboard, I just want to mention a little bit about how much, like the different support options you are going to have access to, especially linked to participation and finance data. So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, we are aiming to have all of your data input automated, and if you are using a system that data hub is already integrated with, then that automation will be in place automatically. But if not, you will be provided with options with standardized templates to upload data into the platform, or we will be more than happy to engage with your ledger management system, with your data capture tools to automate that process as well. You will have access to a full user guidance document about how to use the dashboards and filtering functions in the platform. And also, like today's workshop, we will be able to organize specific online webinars or training sessions for any additional requirements you might have. As we have already started doing on the CLRF site, we will be sharing insights via infographics, standardized reports from the platform as well. So that way you will be able to access them as part of your moving communities platform access. And at any time, if you have questions, if you need more information from us or just need support, you will see our contact details at the end of this presentation, which you can contact anytime and get our help. So now I will pass to Mike to talk about the customer experience dashboard.
Thanks, Utku. So this is showing you the early picture from the customer experience survey. It's one of the largest of its kind ever carried out in our sector. As Utku mentioned earlier, we've had over 50,000 responses. So the survey is an online survey. It was distributed out for the 3 or 4 weeks post opening in April and May, and we asked operators and local authorities to send it out to every member that had opted into marketing communications that had attended at least once in the previous time period. One of the things that we could do with the customer experience survey was build on some of the lessons that we'd learned from carrying out customer experience surveys as part of the NBS, National Benchmarking Service. So some of the questions that were in this 14-question online survey were the same or very similar to the ones that had previously been carried out over the last 15 to 20 years. So that allows us to put these results into context and compare them with previous benchmarks that have been produced. So on the dashboard here, what we've decided to do is to take 4 key indicators from the customer experience survey. So starting from the top left, we've got cleanliness of activity areas. We then got cleanliness of changing areas, the confidence indicator, and NPS. So starting from the left, we obviously realized from a lot of the work and research that we've done during lockdown that upon returning people, cleanliness was going to be really important. So we picked up on 2 questions that we've been asking for many years in NBS, a 5-point scale of satisfaction with both cleanliness of activity areas and changing areas. And the percentages that you can see there for National 21 are the combined percentages of the 2 positive scores on the 5-point response. So they're very satisfied and quite satisfied. So you can see, for example, cleanliness of activity areas is 88, cleanliness of changing areas is 85%. Both of these are at least 5 to 10 point percentages higher than we were seeing pre-COVID. So the interesting thing here is that the sector has obviously upped their game, and the customers that are returning are more satisfied now with the cleanliness than they were prior to COVID and the lockdowns. The third box across is a relatively new score that we've developed over the last 60 months. It's the confidence indicator, or the CIS, the confidence indicator score as you're using it. It's based on a question on a scale of 0 to 10, how comfortable and confident did you feel upon returning with regards to COVID-19 systems, processes and protocols. And what we do for this score is we look at the percentage of people, exactly the same as the calculation for Net Promoter Score. We look at the percentage of people that scored 9 or 10, and we detract the percentage of people that scored 0 to 6. And we end up with this relatively high score of 59. And again, we can put that in context because we asked this question in some quite large surveys that we carried out over the last 16 months. and typically we were getting confidence indicator scores of around 50 to 55. So that shows us that the confidence levels have increased. The customers that are returning now are more comfortable and confident than they were when they returned previously over this 18-month period. And then finally on the top right, we've got NPS, Net Promoter Score. Hopefully you're all quite familiar with that now. So that's how likely are you to recommend based on your last visit on a scale of, again, 0 to 10, with 0 being not at all and 10 being extremely likely. And we then take the percentage of promoters, the 9 or 10s, we subtract the percentage of detractors, the 0 to 6s, and we end up with an NPS of just over 51. And the interesting thing is that typically industry averages pre-COVID would be around 40 to 45. So it's good to see that the NPS has actually gone up as well over this period with customers returning. And then below those indicators, you can see an example of how the questions are displayed. There's about 14 questions in the survey, and they start off with some standardized demographic ones like the age one that you can see there. But we then move into some activity related questions, asking people how active they are both within the leisure centre setting and outside it in informal settings. And then we've got two final sections which focus on the impact of the local leisure centre on their activity patterns and their future intentions. So, for example, from this first survey, we picked up some really interesting information, like 84% of the respondents prefer exercising at the leisure centre to more informal sessions. 88% exercise more intensely at their leisure centre than they do in informal outside leisure sessions, and 97% intended to exercise at least once a week over the next 6 months at their leisure centre. So these more qualitative type questions around impact and future intentions are really important in terms of demonstrating how important the local leisure centre is to its users and to the wider local community. So this is based on the big NLRF customer experience survey. What we intend to do is to carry out the CLRF equivalent around mid to late September 21. In terms of support that we're going to be offering, you'll have a dedicated contact at LeisureNet called Sarah Forster, who carried out pretty much all the admin for the NLRF customer experience survey. Her details are at the end of this presentation, and we'll be issuing out in plenty of time detailed guidance on how to implement. The implementation is based around an email invite out to all customers who this time will have visited in the previous 4 weeks. But we are considering also asking you to do additional promotion, driving people towards this online survey on social media, etc. But a lot more details to follow. We aim to get those out probably at the beginning of August, so that everyone's ready to carry out this standardized online survey across all the CLRF sites in mid to late September. Okay, and I'm just going to pass you over to Caroline, who's going to talk about service delivery.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Quest bit of the presentation. As you've already been informed of the various platforms, the dashboards within this, there is one called Service Delivery, which has pulled questions from what is called our Quest Prime assessment. We wrote the Quest Prime assessment last year to help with the recovery for the leisure sector, and obviously has had quite a lot of hurdles with lockdowns and reopenings and lockdowns and reopenings. So it's got off the ground and then crashed, and then got off the ground and then crashed, and now it's back off the ground again. So we've been running Quest Prime now since September, October time, and lots of facilities have received support to help them get Quest assessments. And the scores, some of those scores from those Quest assessments have been going into this service delivery dashboard. And those scores from their Quest assessments are overall result, overall mystery visit result, because every single Quest Prime assessment has had a mystery visit, and then cleaning and hygiene, 2 or 3 questions from the cleaning and hygiene section of the Quest assessment, and then a couple of questions from the customer journey. Only a very few questions from Quest Prime have been taken into the dashboard. Now, this probably isn't going to be relevant for everybody listening, because we do understand that there's lots of centres that aren't ready to go for Quest, or even want to go for Quest at the moment, and we totally understand that. So what we're going to be doing with you guys is a slightly different approach. Mike, next slide, please. What we're going to be offering all of you who are receiving a reward, an award for Quest, is we're going to be offering you a support package. We're going to be doing one first day support where we have our self-assessment forms, which are part of our Quest modules, and we will be informally sitting down with you all, going through those report forms and seeing where you're at, where your areas for improvement are, where your strengths are. It will be very, very face-to-face, informal. Hopefully you'll tell us where your problems are, where your strengths are, and it won't be scored. So what we will be going through, the modules we'll be going through, are cleaning and hygiene, operational management, which is environment, maintenance, defects, day-to-day operational things, equipment stores, that sort of stuff. Then we're going to be looking at managing the team, which will be about HR processes, comms, training, again, operational stuff about how you manage your team. Then we're going to look at community engagement, so how you engage with your community, whoever that community is. And we appreciate that an awful lot of you have very, very different communities. So, for example, I think I've seen Stoke Mandeville, your community may well be different from a very small community centre. So we understand that. So we're going to be looking at how you're talking to your communities, both those who are existingly using you and the ones who don't, and maybe the ones who did but haven't come back. Then we're going to look at your programme, how you're doing that, how you're planning on bringing your programme back, what your approach is. And then last but not least, the dreaded compliance declaration. We will be going through all the statutory requirements that unfortunately every single leisure centre or leisure facility has to have. So we will go through those and see where you are, how you're progressing, if you know what they are, etc., etc. So day one, we will be going through our checklists. If any of you want to be scored, so you want us to go through it as if it was a Quest assessment, then we will go through and score it as we're going through, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Next slide, please, Mike. So that's the first day. So we'll have got the picture for where you are as an organisation. We'll have talked to the staff and talked to you guys and looked at your paperwork evidence and your centres. Then the second day, what we're going to be doing is it's going to be purely an improvement day. So where you thought you wanted us to focus areas for improvement that you had that we could help with, we will come in and support those, help you put the evidence into place, or maybe give you check sheets or potentially contacts of where people could get training, or maybe put some procedures in for you, maybe look at how you do risk assessments, maybe do a bit of training for your staff on telephone answering. It doesn't matter, whatever it is where you thought your weaknesses are, that day two is for us to help you improve. As you probably all know, Right Directions are a support company anyway. It's what we do for a living. So when we're not Quest assessing, we're out helping organisations ensure that their quality and their health and safety and everything, and food safety are all in place. So we're not coming in to tick box you from a Quest assessment point of view. We're coming in to use the Quest modules as guidance to help us find out where you're at. But the main bit is about improving, helping you to improve and look at where you're potentially struggling on your own. You're not part of a huge, great big corporation where you've got your gaps and you can have some help. So that's what we're going to be doing on day two. Mike, next slide, please. Don't give me that one to do, please. Or that one. I can talk cleaning cupboards till I'm blue in the face, but don't ask me to talk through social value. Okay, so your options that will be available to you. We can score it on day one if you want to, and that will literally be a manual check. And if you've done it ever so well on that, then we can potentially put those scores onto a Quest dashboard, onto the Quest platform, and we can give you those scores. And it may be that some of your scores on day one we can improve on day two, and again we can put those onto the dashboard. What we can't do is we can't give you Quest on the 2 support days, because you haven't had a mystery visit, and a mystery visit is integral to Quest at the moment. So if you do really well over the 2 days and you think, yes, I want my badge, yes, I want my actively ready sticker on my front door, then we will need to do a mystery visit pretty soon after your support days to give you the whole package. So that's how Quest's working. We're not coming in tick boxing. It's not a stick. It's not about sporting them coming in to asking us to see how good or bad facilities are. We're not going to be feeding information back on how awful people's store cupboards are. That isn't the case. This is about supporting you guys to help you get through the next 6 months, year, 2 years. So that's it from me. And again, if anybody's got any questions on Quest, by all means, please ring us in the Quest office. Some of you know me already, so just pick up the phone and we can chat. And I'll hand you over to Akku.
Right. Thank you. More than happy for you to cover social value as well, by the way. So in terms of this, we have seen so far 5 dashboards, and they are all very helpful in terms of creating important insights about your operations and how you benchmark with the sector. But also there is a 6th one, which is going to be, again, another very useful dashboard and will be open by the time you access your platform, is the social value dashboard. So the reason why it will be open a little bit later than the rest is because we have been going through a major update of the social value calculator in the past few months with the latest research from Sheffield Hallam University and Sport England being published towards the end of 2020. So what changes in this new model? So first of all, for the people who are not as familiar with social value calculator as some of the others maybe, social value calculator is used to quantify the benefits of physical activity and sports in improved health, increased subjective well-being, reduced crime, and increased educational attainment. So by tracking participation data from the sector and linking it with the modeling, social value modeling of Sheffield Hallam University, we are able to give you a figure for your social value generation across these different indicators. From the previous model, which has been in place for the last 5 years, the main additions to that is, first of all, introduction of new variables, indicators. We have 3 new indicators in the health area. So hip fractures, back pain, and risk of injuries added to the range of KPIs. And then also social capital to communities is another variable added to the subjective well-being indicators. Then one of the main differences to the previous model is that the old model has been based on the number of visits to a facility, so based on more frequency of participation, whereas now with the availability of much more granular level data, we are able to do the modeling based on duration. So we are able to categorize people into active, fairly active, and inactive categories based on their number of visits, number of minutes in a week of physical activity. So the model is much more inclusive that way, because we are also able to get the social value for people who don't necessarily meet the full threshold, but just contribute to it. An important factor is this time the model takes into account inside and outside facility participation. So that way we can actually do the modeling in a much more granular level and cover the full activity profile of individuals. And also if people are visiting multiple facilities, we are able to reflect that in the deflators as well. So that dashboard will be ready towards the end of next week, and then by the time you access your platform, you will be able also to access the social value calculations from the sector. So if we go to next slide. So now we have gone through the 6 different dashboards. What we want to do next is to give you a quick feel of the platform without going into a full demonstration or full training session, just so you see how these different parts come together in the online platform. So I will share my screen with you. Thank you, Mike. So hopefully you can all see my screen on the top. So this is the website of Moving Communities. So you can access that from movingcommunities.org, and you can find the latest insights from the Moving Communities platform and overall information about the system. And then to access it, there's a link here that says Data Hub sign-in page, which takes you to that page where you can enter your information and go into the platform. I will show you the platform from a demo login perspective. So when I go inside the platform, I have a Moving Communities box, which I can click to access my Moving Communities platform. And this user profile page looks different for each user, depending on which tools you have access to in the data platform. So when you click on it, it takes you into the Moving Communities platform. You land onto a list page. So this is quite an important page, because in this page, you will see all the facilities you are managing as a delivery partner. So if you are managing a single facility, you will only see one line in here. Or if you run lots of tens of facilities as part of a bigger group, then you will see all of your facilities in there. Next to the facility information, you can see Site Passport, which is basically going to show you all your facility information. You have a link to your user survey, and you have also a link for a finance and participation pages. If you go to the finance page, for example, where you can see all the information about your financial data broken down by months, and for each month you can see the individual indicators being filled in on this page. To upload the data in here, that you can use the download template options. So when you download the template, basically it will give you an option to fill that all in Excel directly coming out of your financial system, and then you can upload it into the platform to feed into your KPIs. If we are already integrated with your system, all of that process can be automated for you. So you have both options. You have the manual upload options, and you have the automated data feeds. And for the ones who are not sure whether that system is integrated with Data Hub or not, we can always talk to you directly through the support lines and see your integration status. So that's on the data input side. So what happens when you input your data? You get access to the dashboard section, which has those 5 dashboards we have discussed in the previous section of the presentation. What I want to show you is that filters section. So when you go to the filters page, the platform allows you to set up your preferred options for the 2 filters to access your KPIs. These filters help you to filter your data for your own local view, or to compare or to benchmark it to the national or different views available in the platform. So the left-hand side, the first filter, allows you to select your individual site or to select all of your sites if you have a multi-site operator or delivery partner. And then in the second part, you can select the time frame for your analysis. So currently I've selected April and April for start and end date of my analysis. So this will give me a single month of analysis in the platform. If I select a full financial year, then I can get the full view as well. On the right-hand side, what we call the benchmark filter, I've selected national. I had other options like management type and the other local filters, which allows me to either benchmark my data against the national figures, or what I can do is I can select the same facility, but 2 different time frames, and benchmark my performance from those 2 different time frames of analysis. So it's quite a wide range of functionality available for you to filter from, and also to focus into different parts as your benchmarks. So once you select your filters, it feeds the data into what we call your summary dashboard, where you are seeing the 6 dashboards you have available in the platform. And in each of them, you see a single KPI on your summary dashboard, but by clicking on your dashboard name, it will take you into your specific dashboard in that area. So in every page, in every dashboard, you have a standard view where you have the top KPIs, as we have seen in the presentation, and based on your selected filters, you can see the benchmarks in those areas. On every KPI, there is an info box where you can see what that KPI means and how it's calculated. So that way you can get the full guidance from there as well. And everything you see on your dashboards are exportable. So if you want to generate a report, if you want to have a meeting about it, you can just download them as images, or you can download the full page and actually use it for your reporting purposes. So I'm not going to go into each individual dashboard, but basically the logic is exactly the same. Main KPIs and individual analysis through detailed analysis through a number of graphs on each page. So other than the dashboards available to you, another important section of the platform is the mapping functionality. So you will get access to a map where, obviously, because I'm in the demo account, I can see all facilities. But let's say I have only a single facility. That means my platform will open like this one. So it will just show me one facility, which is the green facility in the middle that I'm managing, and all the other facilities around mine with the blue color. You can only see data from your own facilities, so there's high security around anyone's participation data. So with your participation data coming from your members, we are able to generate a heat map where you can see the information about where your members are coming from. You can make use of the filters on the page again, so you can see the view from a ward perspective. You can get the view from an LSA perspective. And when you are on the ward view, you can add additional boundaries around it. So this gives you a different view from your data based on the filters you have selected. Furthermore, what you can do in here is make use of other data sets embedded into the platform. So for example, if I select deprivation areas and 20%, it marks the areas around my facility with high deprivation layers. So that way I can actually see how much of my participation is coming from highly deprived areas. So if that's one of your targets to address by running your facilities. The other thing you can do in here in the map, quite useful, is you can remove the participation layer and you can add a number of different context layers from the data sets embedded into the platform. And the idea here is to use the tool not just for measuring the impact perspective, but also to use it for planning purposes. So for example, what you can do here is you can say, I would like to see all Black African Caribbean, Black British population around my facility. So you can see where you have a higher density of these ethnic minorities around your facilities if you have a program specifically targeted at these people. Or alternatively, you might say you are planning an intervention with dealing with obesity prevalence in children. Then you can actually get your view for that prevalence rates and also see areas with higher risks around your facility to put a targeted intervention in place. So if you are applying for funding, or if you are targeting certain different communities through your facilities or programs, then you can make use of this map for that purposes as well. So I'm really going to stop here. But as I mentioned earlier, once you have access to the platform, you will have the full guidance document that goes with it. So once you read that, and if you have still questions, we will be more than happy to schedule sessions to support you with the use of the platform. So thanks, Mike. I think we'll switch over to Dave now.
Yeah. Thanks, okay. That's the next slide. And I think what you've just seen with the mapping tools that Utku's described there, it's so important to turn the data into intelligence. You know, those maps are absolutely fantastic. If you were doing that work around obesity in children or around different characteristics within the demographic profiles of your areas, to have access to those mapping tools is just fantastic. And that's the intelligence that's created as a result of the data that we're able to put in, either via your manual upload, via an integration with your leisure management system, and through the customer experience survey. And that's why they're all very important. They all contribute to being able to give us those pictures. But the most important bit is the actionable insight. We have to do something with this information. We have to use this information to make a difference to our communities and to demonstrate our values. And that's where the social value piece comes in that you've also heard from. You know, that whole piece around social value, around the difference we make in our communities is so important. And we will support you with that actionable insight. And I'll show you a slide later on that gives you a little bit of information in that. But to add to it, this is about recovery. It's called the Community Leisure Recovery Fund. And what we wanted to think about is how you can use this information operationally within your recovery. So the questions around, you know, is actually the financial recovery actually matching the projections of you and your stakeholders and your partners? You know, the leisure centres themselves, are they still being used by the people that used them before? Are they using by new people now? Have we managed to attract new customers because of Professor Chris Whitty telling us to get exercise on a regular basis? It's really important to understand that we are attracting different types of people to our businesses, that we're not just picking the low-hanging fruit and attracting those people into the business, but how do we compare our actual participant performance to that of our local community? And again, those mapping tools we've just seen are really powerful in there. From a point of view of yourselves and for those that are surrounding you, what facilities and areas and activities are recovering well? Which is doing well and why? What are the things that we can learn from that, and how can we share that? And of course, that all goes towards supporting the future operational plans, the things that you want to do to be different, the things that you want to do to ensure your survival and to be there as part of your community's recovery. And it has been mentioned that the data and the insight that this can generate that can help you with funding applications within your local authority area, within charities that you work with, potentially commissioning around health activities and those types of things, particularly with the new integrated care systems. You can start to really demonstrate using language that those people will understand what it is that you do, how you do it, and the difference that you make. But of course, operationally is really important. But if Mike goes to the next slide, we also have the strategic view, is how is this going to influence further investment? I hope you've all seen the UK Active alignment with the Local Government Association today, talking about how we can maximise the use of the current National Leisure Recovery Fund and Community Leisure Recovery Fund, but how can we draw down more? How can we demonstrate our need to generate more funding to do that? The most important piece is about demonstrating our value of the centre into our local community, the difference that we're making, and then ultimately looking to the future. How are we going to engage with current stakeholders better and with new stakeholders? Many of you will have taken part in activities such as vaccination centres or testing centres. You'll have built good and strong relationships with parts of the community that you didn't normally have that relationship with. How do we maximise that and how do we use that? And to support you and assist you, when Mike goes to the next slide, we are trying to continually update you and keep you in the loop so that you know what we're doing and how we're doing. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see an infographic. We've been putting these out on a regular basis. They go out on the social media, which is the links that I've given you in the chat box. They'll also be on our website on the resources page of Moving Communities, and that gives you some snapshots as to what's going on. So we're doing sector recovery analysis, so that's giving you the numbers, as you can see there, participation rates, demographic analysis, etc. We're doing some work around the Moving Communities in Focus, and that has looked at things like deprivation. It's looked at the impact of group exercise reopening within our facilities. And we'll also be producing a quarterly report for all data, but a quarterly report specifically for the Community Leisure Recovery Fund. We'll also be doing a specific webinar for the Community Leisure Recovery Fund as well. So we have that ability to really create some nuggets that you can use, that you can compare your performance with, so that you can use those to really influence the things that are going on. And I would ask, if those of you that were maybe a little late joining us, if you can put your name and the facility you represent in the chat box, that would be really useful, because we just need to get a quick register. And I know there's a few names missing on there, and that might mean you've also missed the links to the social media and to the website that this information is shared upon. So Mike, if you just go to the next slide for me, please. We do recognise that this is a really challenging time for all of us. We know your resources are incredibly tight, and we know we're asking, in some cases, for an awful lot of information. We want what you've got, and we want to help you generate more so that you can really access all of this insight and this intelligence that we've been able to show you through the demonstration of the platform and how that works. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you. We've got lots of contact details on the next slide to help you through this process. We will communicate with you as regularly as we can without getting people to the point where we're sending them too much through the email. We have got guides, as Utku mentioned, on the website and on the platform. We have got these recordings, which we will share with you, which are also available on the website and on the platform to help you. And then we've got individuals that are at the end of an email to support you. So Alison at the LeisureNet office is effectively doing all of the administration. You will have had some communication from her already. Chris at 4Global, he'll help you out with all those questions around, does my leisure management system connect to Data Hub? What do I need to do? How do I do that? Etc. Sarah is going to be doing all of the work on the customer experience survey, which we're hoping to get out to you around September. And you've heard from Caroline, who works within Right Directions. So anything that's related to the Quest support days, Caroline's the person to contact, and you can see all of those details there. We will share this presentation with people as well. So if Mike, you just go to the last slide, I think that I really like this picture on this one. Is there any questions? Has anybody got anything they would like to ask us? Just going to open my screen so I can see people if they're going to wave at me or stick their hand up. Doesn't appear to be any questions at all. So in that case, I think the team would like to say thank you very much for your attendance today. It's been really, from our point of view, we're really excited to offer you this package and to really start to understand the difference that these communities within the locations are really making through the data and the insight and the intelligence we can generate. Thank you very much for your time. Take care all. Goodbye.